In the early 1900s, forensic science was riddled with a dark, unanswered question. What actually happens to a human being in the moments before death by hanging? Does a person faint instantly, or do they endure seconds of pure, agonizing awareness? While most doctors studied corpses from the safety of an autopsy table, one scientist decided that reading records wasn't enough. To understand death, he believed he had to step up to the gallows himself. His name was Dr. Nicolae Minovici, and over the course of his career, he willingly placed a noose around his own neck, hanging himself more than 12 times, all in the name of science. Welcome back to Forgotten Chronicles. Today, we look into the horrific, self-sacrificing experiments of the scientist who wanted to feel what hanging felt like and survived to tell the story. Turn of the century Bucharest, Romania. Dr. Nicolae Minovici was a respected forensic scientist and criminologist. In 1904, hanging was one of the most common methods of execution and suicide across Europe. Yet legal systems were plagued by conflicting medical opinions. Was asphyxiation the true cause of death, or was it the sudden drop in blood pressure to the brain? How fast did consciousness fade? Minovici wanted concrete answers to present in his landmark study on hanging. But he realized there was only one subject who could give him real-time feedback: himself. He started small. First, he built an auto-asphyxiation system using a pulley fastened to the ceiling. Lying on his back, he tied an unconstricting cord around his throat, held the other end in his hands, and pulled. The moment pressure hit his carotid arteries, his vision blurred. A piercing ring echoed in his ears. Within 6 seconds, his face flushed deep red. But pulling a rope while lying down couldn't simulate the full mechanical weight of a hanging body. Minovici knew he had to go further. He had to drop. To take the next step, Minovici couldn't work alone. He recruited a team of trusted assistants, binding them to strict instructions. He stood on a platform, adjusted a thick rope tied with a slipknot around his neck, and instructed his assistants to pull the rope over a pulley anchored to the ceiling. The rule was simple. The assistants would pull him off the ground, count out loud, and the moment Minovici signaled by clapping his hands or waving, they had to drop him immediately. During the first few trials, he managed to hang suspended for a few seconds. He noted every single sensory detail, the sensation of intense heat rushing to his skull, a roaring noise like a locomotive train inside his ears, and blinding flashes of light across his eyes. He gradually pushed his limits, eventually training himself to stay suspended in midair for up to 25 seconds. But there was still a major flaw in his data. In these tests, the knot wasn't fully tightening around his airway. If he wanted to mirror an actual execution or suicide, he needed to use a real tightening hangman's knot. The final series of experiments almost cost Minovici his life. This time, he tied a genuine constricting hangman's noose around his neck. He stood on the floor, instructed his assistants to pull the cord tight, and gave the signal to lift him. The instant his feet left the floor, the slipknot constricted tightly around his throat with crushing force. Unlike his previous attempts, where he endured up to 25 seconds, the pain this time was instantaneous and unbearable. Blood was choked off from his brain in milliseconds. His eyes swelled in their sockets, his airway was crushed flat, and vision went completely black before his feet were even a few inches off the floor. Panicking, Minovici frantically gave the hand signal to stop. He had lasted barely 4 seconds. When his assistants lowered him to the ground, Minovici was gasping for air, his neck severely bruised, his vocal cords damaged. The physical trauma was so severe that he was unable to swallow food or speak without pain for over a month. That harrowing 4-second trial was his last hanging experiment. Minovici had pushed the boundaries of human endurance as far as they could go. In 1904, he published his findings in his treatise, Study on Hanging, printed in both Romanian and French. His research revolutionized forensic pathology, providing groundbreaking data on how trauma, neck compression, and oxygen deprivation affect the body. His work helped coroners distinguish between suicides, accidental deaths, and murders staged as hangings.
Dr. Nicolae Minovici went on to establish Romania's first ambulance service and dedicated the rest of his life to public health and medicine. He lived until 1941, leaving behind a legacy as one of history's most fearless and eccentric pioneers of science. Minovici's story stands as a bizarre monument to human curiosity, a doctor who walked to the edge of the grave just to write down what it looked like. If you found this trip into history fascinating, hit that like button and subscribe to Forgotten Chronicles for more forgotten tales, dark history, and extraordinary historical figures. What's the most extreme act of science you've ever heard of? Let us know in the comments below. Until next time, stay curious.